Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video we're going to be doing a starter guide for Gold Mythic Peacekeeper, one of the more powerful defensive characters out there. I have had quite a few requests. This is going to be mainly looking at the skill upgrades I think you should do on this character, combat mods, weapon ideas. So if you do want to check out how his kit works, check out the preview video that I have done previously. A link to that should be in the top right hand corner right now. Let's move on to the skills and just identify how high you have to get Peacekeeper to actually be usable and what skills you should upgrade. Now when it comes to his skills for his rush, I don't think you necessarily have to get him to LB3 as much as you do get the extra taunt target. It is nice, but I would say getting him to at least LB1 for the 55 AP is quite important. However, on the other parts of his kit, it's quite obvious that you need to get him to LB2 to be good. LB2 on the signature move gets him a taunt, which is very important. It's a damage roll character as well, which he taunts, which is very nice. That means he's going to take more damage on that basic attack a lot of the time, which is going to like build up his bide or potentially proc his bide against a character that you'd be very willing for it to actually take out, which is good. And then lastly, if we look at the passives, you can see if we go all the way down to LB2, this is where he gets the second half of that normalized resistance. So very important to get LB2. LB3 on his passives, not amazingly important. He gets a little bit more HP when an enemy gets taken out, but it is nice, but not amazingly important. When it comes to how I've upgraded this character, I have actually only got this character to LB2, and this is like, I would say, the minimum of where you want to actually get him to. I can switch across to my upgrades on this character, and it's pretty much as you see it on the screen right now. As you can see, I have got him now at LB2, and I haven't got the LB3 unlocked because you can't unlock it until you get him to LB3. You can see his HP now is boosted by these 40% HP boosts, and I would say it's pretty much worth maxing everything out. If you do want to save some resources, you could potentially just go to like 14 on the Healthy Guard 1 and 2. I believe it's 28% HP on each of those. That's still very high. I think he'll have a 60k HP base instead of a 70k HP base, so it'll be still pretty decent, but obviously nowhere near as high as 70k. 70k is very nice, but you don't want to go too high on Peacekeeper's HP, so you want to be very careful on how you build the rest of his character and sort of what leader you want to use him with. If you do want to primarily use him with a Tara lead, he's going to have maybe a bit too high HP, even with just his base stats and Tara's lead skill, without weapon, without combat mod. So you just got to be careful, and that's because of his specialist skill. If we just read through the first half of the specialist skill, it is called Vengeance. Store damage taken from attacks, active signatures, and rushes after storing damage equal to 30% of max HP, or when using the defend action, deal 150% of the stored damage to one enemy immediately and reset stored damage to 0. This is bide half of Vengeance, and it is basically I would say the more dangerous part when it comes to what protects payback. You can generally get away with not rushing a character when they're a payback character, but you can't get away with not basic attacking a payback character, and that's what the annoying part of this was, that bide protects the payback and then the normalized protects both. That was why this character is so powerful. If you go too high on that HP, you can do too much damage. So let's say he goes up to 200,000 HP. That means you'd have to do 60,000 damage to proc the bide. I can do a signature move on Carol and hit him for like 45,000 because he generally doesn't have much defense, and I'd say that's primarily the wrong way to build this character, and you're going to see how I build this character with his mods and his weapon and stuff in a second. But you want to make it so that they're going to get punished for doing any sort of damage against this character. So the lower the HP, the better. As long as it's not crazy low, we want to probably aim between 115 to 135k, maybe just creeping up to 140k. This is still extremely high. So if he has 140,000 HP, 30% of that is going to be 42,000 damage he needs to take to make that bide proc. But that amount of sort of reflected damage is going to go up to 60k on the bide damage, which is pretty good. It sounds a bit too high, because a lot of attack team characters have like between 22 and 24,000 sort of like HP in the damage dealers, but a lot of people do use bonus HP, characters on their attack team, so you can get up to like 60, 100% bonus HP really quickly. This means that he'll be able to one-shot any character with that bite, basically, and except characters like Kenny. There is a little bit of a counter there, obviously. Now when it comes to the payback, same sort of deal. It's going to be 30% of his max HP will proc the payback as long as it's a rush, active, or signature skill that does the damage. Basic attacks do not proc this. But I can do that signature move like I was saying with Carol for hit for like 40k, 50k. And because people have like 180,000 HP on their characters, it's not even proccing the payback. So you've got to make this be able to get procced often. As much as there are counters to it, you still need to have this actually proc often. Just so that if people do make a mistake, you punish them heavily for it. So like I say, the range of HP between 115 and potentially up to like a max, I think, of 140,000 HP on this character. Once he's fully in a team, weapons, all that good stuff. That'll just bring you the best potential of his specialist skill. Now when it comes to his combat mods, I would say what you want to do is you want to counter effectively the set bonus based on the leader. So for instance, if you've got a defensive leader, go for a HP set bonus. If you've got a HP leader, go for a defensive set bonus. A lot of the better leaders right now for Peacekeeper are HP leaders. You've got like Tara and you've got Wang Fa, both of them are HP leaders. So we're going to go with defense set here, but if a character comes out in the future, or if you do want to use him on a pre-defense team, I would say using a HP set is the way to go. But the rest of the mods, I'd keep the same regardless of what team he's on. So the first mod we're going to go with is going to be a defense mod. And because I'm going to primarily be using him on a Wang Fa lead team, he's going to have defense set. Now you can see his defense is going to start to rise. I think his base defense is 15,500, so nothing crazy. If I did use a HP mod here, his HP would boost massively because combat mods boost base stats over anything else. They don't like multiply weapons or leader skills. But like I said, you do not want to be getting crazy high HP on him. Otherwise, you're just not going to be getting the benefits of that specialist skill. We're going to raise his defense as much as possible. We want to actually reduce the damage that he's taking on massive hit rushes or nukers like Kenny, you know, characters like Easter Eva. If you can survive an Easter Eva rush, we're kind of like winning in that case. And that is why in the top right hand corner, we're going to do defense versus tough to reduce the incoming damage from Eva. Weapons do not have any chance of reducing incoming damage from Eva because like the slots where it's like reduce incoming crit damage don't work against Eva's rush. The slot where you could potentially not even go for like impair when attacked, you could go for instance, defense based on the enemy's HP. It doesn't actually proc because Eva's rush is not an attack based rush, it's a damage dealt based rush, and that bypasses those sort of things. So it's pure stats that counters Eva and this mod right here. You could potentially go for defense versus alert as well if you were thinking Kenny was more of an issue. But I would say while defense versus fast seems like an obvious choice, there aren't too many top tier nukers right now that are fast characters that are in like meta teams. So you can take the risk, in my opinion, and going for a different defense versus, at least for the time being, in the top right hand corner. Now when it comes to the bottom right hand corner and honestly the wild card slot as well, I'm going to be going for double resists. Just because Peacekeeper is one of those characters that I feel like some people just control and just leave to the end of the fight. Get the Confused down with Trader, get Mike's Infection down, and then just ignore him, basically. Whereas if you resist that Confuse and you get his signature move off, you can obviously, you know, start building up the Bide, be problematic in that way. So we're going to go with that Confused resist in the bottom right hand corner. You can see now he's got the set bonus starting to come into play. His defense gets boosted once more up to 20k, and that is a pretty good start. We're probably going to get much bigger boosts on his defense just because of other things we're going to do with him. Now in the bottom left hand corner, I think you've got two main options. Because I'm not going to go for stun resist here, and stun is still pretty heavily used, you could go with defense while stunned. That does mean when he is stunned, he's got more chance of obviously taking less damage. Or you could go for graze here to obviously reduce incoming damage based on basic attacks or big heavy multi-hit rushes like Kenny. While it may not stop him from being taken out, it could just basically make it so it takes more hits to take him out and give Kenny less chances to take out an entire team in that case. Now for me, I have got a graze mod. I do not have a defense or stun mod. It basically depends on how you feel about those two mods, which one you feel is going to be the better one to use. Now the last mod honestly is a toss up between a lot of different mods. You could go with like taunt resist. You could go with heal reduction resist if you want to try and counter the potential heal reduction for like Mike and stuff like this. If you do build a weapon on Peacekeeper that's going to have potential heals that could come towards Peacekeeper to cleanse the infection naturally. Or you could go with, for instance, Daze Resist to just try and guarantee that he's going to get off that signature move turn 1 to start building up some Bide. It basically is up to you. Whichever one you feel is the problematic thing for your teams or your regions, or just things that you probably trying to counter, it can potentially depend on other characters that are in the team with Peacekeeper. For instance, if you have Mr. Jones in the team, you don't have to worry as much about infection, just because Mr. Jones is going to have a potential resist, obviously, on Peacekeeper there, where he could just resist it straight up, so you don't have to worry too much about heal reduction and trying to get rid of that. So you can go against potential, like, people who are going to counter his signature move, stop him from being able to build up that bide, controlling a damage dealer character, that sort of thing. However, I'm going to go a little bit outside the box and go for defense down resist. This is mainly to counter Easter Eva. As you can see, a lot of my build here is to try and counter Easter Eva. The defense versus in the top right hand corner, obviously the resist to the defense down, which Easter Eva has on her kit. 80% of the time, she'll do defense down onto a tank. And obviously, Peacekeeper is going to be one of my primary tanks on certain defense teams. And I think my resist on him is like 80%. I've got an 80% mod here. So it's actually got a very, very good chance of resisting. If I can survive the Eva rush off of turn 1, it does mean my payback would remove her Guardian Shield. And it would mean that my bide would actually take her out. And that would be fantastic. That's kind of like the aim here. Now I will lock in these mods, and you'll see that defense now is up to 21.1k. I think, like I said, it starts off at about 15.5k. So we've had a little bit of a boost here, nearly a 30% boost just off of the mods, which is actually pretty decent. We still want to get that number up nice and high. The HP is going to be very easy to raise just because we're going to get the Wangfar lead bonus very soon. However, the other way of raising HP in defense, of course, is going to be the weapon. The base weapon of Peacekeeper is okay, but we do want heavy amounts of defense boosts on the weapon primarily. I don't think this is like an amazing weapon. It doesn't really stop people from attacking him in terms of like being worried. I'd say Impair is much better than Dazed without a shadow of a doubt. And obviously you want to have a defense bonus on this because it's already a 5-star weapon. You're not going to be able to get huge amounts of stats on this. And I'd say in the 4 slot you want to probably counter someone like Kenny if you can. Now, a weapon like this would be okay. This is going to counter Kenny. The 3rd and 4th slots are going to counter Kenny. They are, however, going to do nothing against Eva, but that's how you've modded this character to counter Eva. The weapon can potentially counter Kenny in this case. So this isn't like a terrible option. The only downside is it has got higher HP than defense, and realistically, I'd want to swap those two stats around. I'd want him to have much more defense from the weapon than HP. Having 30% HP is going to be enough. It will multiply with the leader skill. It will be multiply with those passives. Will be absolutely fine. He's going to have huge amounts of HP regardless. But the defense needs the bigger number. Same sort of idea with this weapon. It has got the stats in the wrong place again. But this one's going to be an impair weapon. But you're reducing incoming crit damage. And again, that's going to kind of deal with Kenny to a certain extent. If you could stop Kenny from one-shotting Peacekeeper off turn 1, which definitely is something that people do, you're going to be basically enabling your team to survive a bit longer. Kenny's biggest bonus is getting his follow-up to proc really early in the fight. If he doesn't get it to proc early, it slows down the fight massively. And if you can get that impair on him as well, then you're going to be laughing, because Kenny without the potential of gaining AP is nowhere near as powerful. This is the kind of ideal weapon that you could potentially use, but instead of that 4 slot here where you're getting the tough HP, you just have the 50% reduction to incoming critical hits. You could potentially have this Raven's weapon already. I think it was a previous Battle Pass weapon. So in this case, I'm going to use this weapon on my tests because it's going to show his survivability against Eva. Like I said, the 50% reduction to incoming crit hits doesn't actually affect Eva, but without the 50% reduction to crit hits, we'll see how good his survivability is going to be against a Kenny. So here is Peacekeeper now in a defense team. He has got his base weapon where I think he gets 35% HP. So his HP might actually just get slightly adjusted. We'll see. But you can see he's getting the leader bonus. 120k HP is absolutely fine. Between 115 and 140k, you're laughing. We'll just put the weapon in his hands that I was talking about, which is going to be the Raven's weapon. And you're going to see his defense get boosted a little bit. It'll go up to 29k defense. And that is pretty nice. And then we'll put in a couple of other characters which are going to help as well. First up, we're going to put in Andre, and you can see Andre is going to boost the defense even more. 40k defense on Peacekeeper is actually kind of crazy considering his base defense is 15k. You've nearly tripled his base defense, which is nuts. And obviously only tough characters can really do this because of Andre and certain other things. But basically, this is ideal for Peacekeeper. He's going to take massively reduced damage because of this. And it may not seem like a good idea because of his specialist skill, but the potential to just one-shot nuke Peacekeeper with Easter Eva is extremely high. Even with really high HP, if you don't have high enough defense, that high HP doesn't actually count for much. Now, another character we're going to use is going to be Gold Mythic Davy, and we're going to have Davy get some HP healing off of turn 1, and this is basically so that he can give some bonus HP early on in the fight before the enemies start attacking. Now, remember the way Vengeance works with the Bide and the Payback is based off of the base HP. So if, let's say, Peacekeeper gets like 30, 40, 50k bonus HP at any random point, and he takes like 30, 40, 50k damage on that bonus HP, the calculation on the 30% is still always on that base number, the 122,358 in this case, the base HP. So having bonus HP coming from somewhere is very powerful, and Davy is the man when it comes to bonus HP, especially before that fight starts. Okay, we're going to start the fight, and as you can see, my Peacekeeper did resist the defense down from Eva. Now we're going to try and hard nuke him. He has got a little bit of bonus HP because of Davy, and the idea is that we survive this. The idea is we survive this, and we have managed to. And what will happen now is the Payback will remove the Guardian Shield, and the Bide will one-shot her, then he'll get healed back up. This is what you actually kind of want to try and make your Peacekeeper do. My Eva is built very nicely. If you haven't seen my Eva build video, she is built very good. But my Peacekeeper is built to counter her. Not ideal in terms of bringing out this video, but I know some people do want to still get the best out of their Peacekeepers. Now, when it comes to Kenny, I can follow up this damage, obviously, and take him out. And then, obviously, I've got things going. But if you build him in the right team, I'm fully controlled now because of Wang Fa. So you just need to get the right setups when it comes to these sort of characters. But let's see if we can actually just one-shot Peacekeeper off of turn 1 like I do to a lot of people's Peacekeepers with my Kenny. So we start the fight again, and again I have resisted the defense down. I'm going to select Peacekeeper. I'm going to just do my signature move on Kenny, and we're going to hit for 95k, and that's without Grace. So we have survived that turn 1, and that's actually quite important. Obviously at this point I can decide to, you know, use my my Easter Eva, but I think a lot of people would just straight up rush with Eva first, and that's how you saw her die in the last clip. So a lot of the time Eva would be taken out. That's obviously great. Or just using as much as you can off of characters is good. In this case, Kenny does not have a follow-up, so he didn't get the actual like 100% AP, so he can't like rush instantly or rush twice the next turn. This is absolutely fine for him. Now, something else I used to do, of course, would be to whittle the Peacekeeper down a little bit with someone like Carol. I do the Sig move, and the idea here is to see what actually happens. I get half my Bide bar, but it doesn't do that much damage. I hit other people's Peacekeepers for like 40, 45k, and the reason Carol hasn't done that much damage here is because he has such high defense. Even though he doesn't have defense versus fast, his base defense is much higher. 40k is really high, and the fact that he has like I say 120k HP, you could probably boost it up a little bit more. But like I say, it depends on the leader. I think this is probably the best setup you've got just for trying to survive or be annoying on turn 1 with Peacekeeper. Now, ideally, what we'll just do is we'll just do the defense. This is one of the things he can do. He can just defend, and if you've got a low HP character, he only had 50% of his bite there. He just one-shot someone, hit someone for 26k. It was Kenny. He is low HP. So that's my Peacekeeper and my ideas behind him. Obviously, he's not going to be countering everything, but he's countering two very important things. He's countering Eva at the moment, and he's countering Kenny to a certain extent as well. Now, if you want to have him have a better chance of survivability against things like infection, it will be about his teammates. Like I say, Mr. Jones give 40% resist off of turn 1 to all tough teammates, I believe. So he will have like a 40% chance of just not getting infected in that case. You could potentially have characters in the team that have weapons, or even Peacekeeper that has a weapon that has a chance to heal him based on how many debuffs he has on himself, based on how much missing HP he has. You could try and get it so that Davy gets a lot of HP off of that early turn. So instead of Peacekeeper having a small amount of bonus HP, he has a huge, like 50-60% of his bonus HP. It'll be much harder to take him down in those scenarios. especially with that really high defense. 40k is no joke on a Peacekeeper. It might not be that high on most characters, but on Peacekeeper it is crazy high. Now if you build Peacekeeper a different way, or if there's something that you kind of have issues with when it comes to Peacekeeper, let me know in the comments down below. That is the end of my video, guys. I want to thank you very much for tuning in, and as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.